Good Monday evening, everybody. I don't know what time of day it is. Good Monday morning. Good Monday evening, everyone. Thank you for having us in your home. I'm Laura Dion-Jones. Welcome to Commit to Get Fit with Laura Dion-Jones. I'm a pro health activist, certified corporate wellness coach, and motivational speaker, writer, author. I lost 130 pounds in 2.5 years by cutting white starch and sugar from my diet. Here's a picture of me at 317 pounds in February of 2002. The picture next to it is minus 130. And when you see me now, I'm down like maybe 150 pounds. I'm here to show you, and my guest and I are here to show you actually how you can commit to get fit and lose all your unwanted, unhealthy weight once and for all. I want to tell you about, if you'd like to have more information about my guest, myself, motivational weight loss programs, testimonials, etc., please go to my website at commit-fit.com. And let me remind you that our show is interactive, live call-in. The number is right here at the bottom of your screen. And if you have something interesting to say or a question to ask, we definitely want to hear from you. Now I want to ask you something. What would you say if I told you that the pain of being fat is worse than the pain of taking it off? Our very special guest this evening, pro running coach Brendan, is going to tell us how to walk, run our unhealthy weight right off, just like I did. Coach Brendan is a professional running coach. He has run marathons in each of the 50 states on all 7 continents.
That's correct.
Great Wall of China, this one is my favorite, and twice on or in Antarctica. And his second Antarctic marathon he did this past March
30th.
And all the continents, what else?
All 7 continents, all 50 states, about 12 cities in Europe. A lot of interesting places around the world to run and see cities up close and personal.
I bet 25 miles running around. What was your favorite?
26.2.
26.2. What was your favorite?
Every time I'm asked that question, it's different because there's so many wonderful. Pikes Peak was a wonderful running up and down Pikes Peak.
I've driven
The
it.
Boston Marathon is fantastic. Chicago is one of the world's greatest races. Great, fantastic organization. I've run Chicago 11 times, and now I'm out in the course every year in October, helping cheer my runners on.
Well, let us give a warm welcome to Coach Brendan Cournane, professional running coach, and he's going to tell us about beginning walking, beginning running. And you know something, there is one thing that I really would like to show. I am so taken with this Antarctic that my PowerPoint person, the producer, Tony, who put this together, this is Coach Brendan. Is that from this March?
That is from March 30th of this year, just a few weeks ago.
Oh, I wish you would have brought your medal because we didn't put the picture of the medal on. And then we can also get to the Great Wall of China, where he also ran a marathon, and Coach has a great article about it. And tell me where your article about the Great Wall of China is again, because I forgot the publication.
The publication is called Marathon and Beyond. It is a very nice glossy magazine that caters to marathon runners and ultramarathon runners.
And I'm sure they have an archive on their website.
They do, and I also have a link to it on my website as well.
So it's a good article. It's a terrific article. If you've been to the Great Wall, if you haven't been to the Great Wall, it's wonderful to read the article because he gives you literally a step-by-step account of running the Great Wall of China Marathon. Anyway, first thing I want to ask you is, were you always a runner?
No. When I was younger, I didn't like to run a whole lot, but I was involved in some other sports. I was involved in Irish football. I played soccer.
What's Irish football?
It's sort of like a combination of rugby plus soccer.
Okay.
You use a ball that looks like a soccer ball. You get to use elbows and shoulders and a lot of other things as you're playing the game. So it's a little bit rougher than soccer is. I also played baseball a lot when I was growing up. All the way, I played soccer in college, played baseball. Even some semi-pro baseball when I was an adult. I was the semi-person. I wasn't the pro person who was on the teams, but a lot of other activities when I was younger.
That's cool. How did you get into pro running coaching?
Well, the first 3 marathons I ran, I had no training whatsoever and didn't do very well. In fact, my first marathon was Chicago in 1985. I was one of the last people to cross the finish line. That year, there were 4,500 runners in the marathon.
Yeah.
I registered the day before the race.
How long did it take you?
Just under 5 hours. And along about 24 miles, I was passed by a woman who was 80 years old, and I was passed by a woman who was 7.5 months pregnant. And
Swear
in
to
both cases,
God?
swear to God,
Oh my God!
both of them had their names and pictures in the paper the next day, and I had no energy to go with them. I swore I would never do it again, that I would never run a marathon again. And of course, I decided to do some more, did 2 more the next 2 years, took 8 years off, and then I came back in 1995, learned how to train and run a marathon. And at that time, similar to what a lot of your guests are looking at as far as a lifestyle change, in learning how to run and train properly for a marathon, I lost a considerable amount of weight. I also knocked over an hour and a half off my time and qualified for the Boston Marathon, the 100th running of the Boston Marathon in 1996.
How long did it take you to train for that?
That was about a 24-week training program. We started in April, the end of April, and the marathon was October 15th of that year.
And so it took you 24 weeks to go from almost last to qualifying for the Boston.
Right.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
How did you evolve into a marathon runner?
Well, I've always been kind of anal retentive in what I'm doing, so I kind of get into the habit of doing something and want to see it through. And I set goals. Like a lot of the runners that I have, I like them to set goals for themselves that are both achievable and realistic. But I also have developed this kind of a philosophy that I recognized at the beginning of that season in 1995 that even qualifying for the Boston seemed impossible. But I have this theory now that I call the I-team, where we take impossible, make it improbable, and make it inevitable. And that's kind of the transformation that I like to see with all of my runners.
Sure. Well, you know what? Tell us how you help people turn the impossible into the improbable, into the inevitable for success. Because I had that as one of my questions that I wanted to know about. So tell us, how do you take the impossible, such as moi, impossible, for running, into the improbable, a very improbable runner because I have 2 fake knees and some spinal issues. That's improbable, correct? Into the inevitable, that I could actually do a marathon under 5 hours, because I don't know about that kind of time commitment for me, for success. Let me just add, hold your thought about, you're going to tell us about that. I was, speaking of you being almost the last person to finish the marathon in, what was it, 86? 85. In 1988, I was the last person to complete a real Chicago triathlon in 4 hours and 51 minutes. And the first place winner got $10,000, and the last place person got a 2-page spread in a women's magazine, and it was $5,000-$6,000 a page. So we kind of both came out on the winning end, and that was actually the start of my writing career. Is because they contacted me. They heard what I did through the garment industry. I was in the garment industry at that time, and they the people at the magazine wanted me to write an article about it, and it's called Going the Distance. But it didn't bother me being dead last, and I was dead last. So it motivated you.
Yes, it did.
And so now tell us how you would help people turn impossible into improbable into inevitable.
First, think about the I-team. Turning the impossible into the improbable, into the inevitable over a time period. Setting your goals that are reasonable and flexible, so that even if you have a long-term goal of something that might be a year and a half out, in the training process, recognize that you take measurements along the way, objective criteria measurements along the way. Say the first 6 weeks of your training program, then again at the 3-month period, 6-month, 9-month period. And those are important benchmarks because you can see the progress that you're making in the way that your body is changing, the fitness level, all of these things along the way are measurable ways to achieve. I also want people to do their own training. Many times people come into a training program and they say, well, my husband or my wife or my significant other or my coworker wants me to run with them. And they say, if I can do a marathon, you can do a marathon. I don't want my runners to necessarily compare themselves to anybody else. Running is a very specific sport. It's an individual sport. Another one of those I components of being part of the I team. It's individual. So I have to look at where I am in my training, and I ask each of my athletes to do the same thing. Not to compare themselves to the athlete they might have been 10, 15 years ago. Not to compare themselves to the athlete they will be in 6 months. But where they are right now, have an honest assessment of their training program. What is the right training program for them? What fits their lifestyle? Because every time we set a goal, there's a price to be paid for that goal. So I have to ask myself, and I ask my runners to assess, am I willing to pay the price to reach this goal? And if not, then I have to adjust my goals that can either be more aggressive or less aggressive. But what am I trying to do along the way in the time frame that I've set?
That's a big commitment, boy. 24 weeks. Well, how many weeks away is the Chicago Marathon?
It's 20. In fact, now my training programs now are 20 weeks long. They start this coming weekend, Memorial Day weekend, and the Chicago Marathon this year, the Bank of America Chicago Marathon, is held on October 13th of this year.
And they're full, right?
They are sold out. However, there are a lot of charity groups that I work with. Available information on my website as far as some of the charities that still have some slots available.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, not really, but, you know, the way you put it, I might. I know, I mean, it's too much of a time commitment for me. I have visions of myself coming in last and, like, nobody's left. And, you know, because when I did the triathlon, I had, like, the 6.2, and the halfway point was halfway down McCormick Place. And the woman who was sitting at the halfway point, I said to her, how much more till the turnaround, till the halfway point? She said, oh, just a half a mile or quarter of a mile. But she said, just turn around here, nobody will know. And I said, you know what? I have been at this since 5 this morning. It was 98 degrees. Lake Michigan was 59 degrees. I didn't have a wetsuit. It was excruciating. This was my last event. And I said, you know what? I would know. So I went and I did it, and everybody's like, you're the last one, you're the last one. What do you want? What do you want? I said, I just want somebody. I want the official timer to wait for me at the end so he could sign my race bib. And he did. They were taking down the flags, and everybody was at the party, and they signed my race bib. So anyway, marathon, though, that's a bigger time commitment, I'm thinking. How does becoming a better athlete help you to become more productive in other areas of our lives? Because I know that you're a strong believer in that, in building athletes, and I know that you call your clients or your people that you work with athletes, because that's what they are becoming, is an athlete. So this is even for people who maybe you have never thought of yourself as being an athlete.
Which is the
your
first
chance,
step.
right?
Well, it's the first step. If you want to act like an athlete, you want to believe yourself an athlete, you've got to tell yourself, I'm an athlete. And that's one of the things about taking an honest assessment of where you are now, what your recent history has been, and also where you're going to be. The more you reinforce the fact that I am an athlete, the more you're likely to believe it and participate in the training program. It takes about 6 or 8 weeks. Even somebody who's new to a training program will get into the habit in about 6 or 8 weeks. In fact, for several of the groups that I'm working with right now, before the marathon season begins, their demographics are such that there are a lot of people who are brand new to running or haven't exercised in a number of years. I offer an 8-week preseason base building program where they will get into the habit over the 8 weeks of running consistently several days a week, the same days every week, like Monday, Wednesday, Saturday every week, and they will build up to roughly a 6 or 7 mile run. That gets them into the habit as a bridge, as a springboard for success when the marathon training begins this weekend. So it's believing in yourself, talking to yourself, saying, I am an athlete. And once you believe that, you're well on your way to completing the distance.
So listen, for a person like myself who is a distance walker, because that's what I am, I'm built for comfort, not speed, but I can go the distance. And I walk between 5 and 8 miles a day. But you know what? I really don't think I can run because I have 2 knee replacements. That's my challenge with this whole thing. Because even when I'll be on the treadmill at East Bank, we're both members at East Bank Club, and I'll be on the treadmill and I'll be going like at 3.6, you know, and I'll be thinking, just start hopping, just start running a couple of steps, and I just can't bring myself to do it. Coach Glenn, the boxing coach, Glenn Friedman, he was trying to teach me to jump rope. He said I have to start with a virtual jump rope. But all kidding aside, I really don't think that I'm a candidate for running.
And in that case, you may not be a candidate to complete the Chicago Marathon because they have a 6.5 hour time limit to complete the course. And not very many people can walk a full marathon in that distance. A lot of people can, but not everybody can.
In that time?
In that time. There are a number of races around the country. I know of a race in Bermuda that has a much longer time period, and it's another way to see some other destinations that have longer time periods and that are walker friendly.
Okay.
So find a race that suits your needs, that also relieves some of the pressure that you're not up against, a very short time pressure that puts added stress on your training level and how you're feeling about yourself, because you know you've got that extra time. And if they're walker friendly, then that's another race that you could anticipate entering.
Tell us about some of your beginning walking programs. How would you encourage someone like me to, or someone who isn't even in the 5 to 8 miles a day, who just wants to get into walking because they know it is probably the best form of cardio. It's the cheapest and the best form of cardio that you can do. And you have to be able to walk anywhere. Because, when I first started in '02 with my whole Commit to Get Fit weight loss quest and everything, and people say, well, why didn't you take up swimming? Because I used to be a lifeguard when I was younger. But it's like you can't swim to the grocery store. You have friends who are going on a wine tour of a vineyard tour of France or somewhere. And I didn't want to be the one sitting it out at the hotel like a lot of overweight friends that I have. And that's why I chose walking. And when I was at 317 pounds, it was excruciating.
Yes.
It was excruciating. So how would you tell us about some of your beginning walking programs?
Okay. First off, I encourage everybody starting an exercise program to see their physician, to get checked out, to make sure that there are no latent effects that we have in our body. Sometimes they're genetic. They've just gone undiagnosed for a number of years. So make sure that you've got your physician's blessing to start off a program. Then we get into one of the points I mentioned earlier about time intervals, setting a time measurement time, a 6 to 8 week period of time, walking consistently. It can be 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day to start. For somebody who has not exercised maybe ever in their life, or somebody who has not exercised for a long period of time, walking on a regular basis, same days each week, same time of the day each week, you develop a habit. You develop that confidence that I am able to do this. Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings between 8 o'clock and 8:30, I go out for my walk. At the end of a 6 to 8 week period, that becomes a habit. That, as opposed to somebody who says, when they get up on Monday morning, well, maybe I'll walk today, maybe I'll walk at the end of the day. By the end of the day, at the end of work, I'll just blow it off, I'll do it tomorrow. If you have a set schedule, put it in your Outlook calendar, put it on your computer, and treat it like you would an important commitment, because it is an important commitment that you're trying to build to commit to be fit. And once you start that habit, after the end of a 6 or 8 week period, then you move into the next phase. You can start to increase the length of time. You can start to increase the frequency of the walking once that becomes part of your routine, a healthy routine.
When I coach people, I also, to be very beginning walking, these are people, couch potatoes. I get them to buy the best pair of walking shoes they can afford, and to get them out 10 minutes a day, then 15 minutes a day, then 20. But I go the daily, 35 straight days to make or break a habit. These people are hardcore. And this is what I personally need them to do, but we're not training for a marathon like you are. We're training for the marathon of life, and we just want to get them moving again, because there are a lot of people on a lot of experts on TV that will say, oh, all you need to do is do it 3 times a week for 20 minutes. And I got to tell you something about that. If I had only walked 3 times a week for 20 minutes, I would be 417 pounds now, not 170 or whatever I am. So,
well, I understand that. And for a lot of the runners that I coach, I try to understand what motivates them the best. Because if I can determine a person like you who wants to walk every single day as part of the routine, that's going to be different than somebody who's training for a marathon. And the reason I start them off by 3 or 4 days a week of their training program is that as mileage increases over a marathon training program, rest and recovery days are very, very important to allow the body to relieve some of the stress. It also means that for many of the runners that I coach, instead of thinking about a marathon as the first race out of the box, we set something like a 5K, which is 3.1 miles. And then the progression, it might be a 2 or 3 year progression before completing the marathon, because we do it safely and healthy to make sure that you progress along the way. Maybe the entire first year, the goal is to get into the habit of walking or even run walking. I know the next level up from walking is a run walk.
God, I wish I could do that.
And then you do it aiming for a 5K or a 10K. Something that's possible, not only possible, but a positive statement of where you can measure yourself, the progress that you're making along the way. It doesn't need to be a marathon, because maybe a marathon is not realistic or achievable, and to set a goal that's unreasonable or unachievable will set us back eventually. So I want to maintain a positive lifestyle, a positive, healthy progression along the way with long-term goals as well as short-term goals.
One thing I want to say about that, though, too, also is from the people that I have worked with over these past several years, if they don't lose weight at the weekly weigh-in and they go, well, I started lifting weights and, muscle weighs more than fat. Your muscle isn't going to, your fat isn't going to turn to muscle in 1 week. So I don't want people to say, well, Coach Brendan said that I only have to do this 3 times a week, and I'm doing it 10 minutes a day for 3 days a week because I need to rest and recover in between. They've been resting and recovering their whole life up until now. Now it's time to get off the couch and make the habit every day, 35 straight days, make or break a habit. My philosophy, but I'm just getting you off the couch. Coach here is taking you to the Boston or to the Chicago or 5K. You know, we have to work on this with me with the issues with the knee thing.
I understand that. And I do understand that some people need that daily workout. But I also have other workouts included in this. It's not just the 3 days of walking or the walk running. At least 2 days a week cross-training. And cross-training are aerobic activities that do not put stress on the body. So those include things like swimming, like cycling, Stairmasters, elliptical trainers, and you do those for 30 to 45 minutes a day, again, to develop that routine. So altogether, you're exercising 5 to 6 days a week with 1, maybe 2 rest days to allow the body to adapt and recover over the period of time.
Well, you know something? I have many more questions to ask you, but if you will join us tomorrow night at 7 to 8 p.m. on Blog Talk Radio, Coach Brendan will be there, and we're going to go into this in more depth about his training program and also answer any questions that you might have if you'd like to call in or you'd like to email us. First of all, quickly, your mantra is good form will carry you through.
That's right. Good form will carry you through is both a physical presence and also psychological presence. From a physical standpoint, I want my runners and all of my athletes to be efficient, to be lazy. That is, to use the least amount of energy to get across the finish line to achieve their goals. Good form means that as you're landing, every time you land, you should be able to draw a plumb line from the top of your head down to where your foot is landing.
Oh, that takes practice.
Your head is over your shoulders. Shoulders are over hips. Hips are over the bottom part of your feet where you're landing. And you use your arms. You move your arms back behind your body in order to assure that your arms and your legs work together for maximum production going forward. Psychologically, good form will carry you through means positive self-talk. Remind yourself, I am an athlete. I can do this. I am on this progression to have a healthier lifestyle. I'm committing to get fit, and I can do this. And that's what good form will carry you through means, both physically and psychologically.
That's wonderful. Listen, what one word best describes you?
One word?
Uno. Well, maybe 2, but, you know.
Endurance athlete.
Endurance athlete.
Yes. And when I think of an endurance athlete, it's not just the physical presence, but encompasses the whole psychological package as well, because we're in a marathon called life. And as we proceed, we are endurance athletes in the game of life.
No kidding. And you already told us your favorite place, one of your favorite places in the world. So I want to thank Coach Brendan Cournane for being with us and such a wonderful guest today. And here's my contact information. If you'd like any more information about him, please email me or call me. And to get any more motivational weight loss advice and tools, I invite you to go to my website at commit-fit.com. It's on your screen, and where you can find the secret to your own true and everlasting weight loss once and for all, because Coach and I want to see you succeed just like I did. And please go to my website to sign up for my motivational newsletter and your free healthy eating tips. Coach Brendan, thank you very much for joining us this evening on Commit to Get Fit with Laura Dion-Jones. And join us tomorrow evening again on my Blog Talk Radio show, available to listen live 7 to 8 p.m. right from my website at commit-fit.com. Please join us next week for another Commit to Get Fit radio show. Happy Memorial Day, because no TV show will be broadcast next Monday night. Our very special guest on June 3rd and 4th is Marilyn Tam. She's a PhD, speaker, author, consultant, board-certified executive corporate leadership coach. This gal makes the rest of us look like we are standing still. She's a contributing writer to HuffPost, and she was CEO of Aveda, president of Reebok Apparel, vice president of Nike. She came from China. I mean, she has the most incredible story. Her name is Marilyn Tam. Her radio show and her book are called The Happiness Choice. And you got to choose to be happy. I'd like to thank our producers for our show today. Ellery Casey, Laura Dion-Jones, that's me, Tony Laban, Sue Koch, Sue, our phone girl. You won't want to miss our upcoming shows. Thank you for watching. Please tell all your friends to tune in, and happy Memorial Day. I got to thank you for the happy. Semper Fi, kids, and do pray for peace. Please join us next week, tomorrow night and next week on Blog Talk Radio, following Monday, June 3rd, right here, Monday night. Take care. Bye-bye.